Hiya friends, Prepared Suburbanite back with you. Well, today I want to talk a little bit about bartering and what we're going to need when that day comes and the S hits the fan. We've got to be prepared for pretty much everything when it comes to being ready for when the S does hit the fan. So what I want to talk about today is bartering. Now I've got and have been a silver stacker for probably 10, 12 years. And I started out buying constitutional silver. That, that silver that they used in coinage before they switched it all over to the zinc-plated stuff, and dimes, quarters, half dollars, those kinds of things, because I believe that that will come in very handy as your bartering base when you need it. Now, there are a number of other items that you can use to barter with, and a lot of the things that you see in some of the books and movies and stuff about what happens after the apocalypse comes on us, whether it's an economic downturn, a collapse of the government, a nuclear war, natural disasters, anything that could happen that's going to disrupt our normal way of living. And I've kind of relied on having a stack of silver that I use or could use for barter. Now, like I said, I've been stacking silver pretty much on a regular basis since probably 2010 or maybe 2012, somewhere around in there. And I started picking up constitutional silver, the dimes, the quarters, the half dollars, and all those kinds of things that come along with it. And they're easily used for barter. If you need food and you've got a roll of quarters, easily you can split that roll of quarters into individual coinage and trade between yourself, your neighbors, the local guy that's going to set up a garden shop and all that, to get what you need to continue to purchase food without using the worthless paper currency that we've got now, which is still pretty worthless. Now, I've been watching what's going on in the silver market, and in January, if you've been following, you know that there was an intraday high of $120 an ounce, and that's an awful lot. It was crazy. It was predicted. A lot of pundits were saying, yep, silver's going to go crazy and it's going to go well over $100 an ounce and all that. Well, it did for a very brief period of time. I checked this morning and we're at about 68. And while it's a good point to take a look at maybe stocking up on silver right now, but I'm suspecting, and it's just my opinion, that silver is going to continue to decline in value as the economic situations here in the United States improve and the dollar improves. So when the dollar improves, the price of silver goes down, which seems kind of counterintuitive, but it is what it is. And now is not a bad time to really consider. So there's other forms of barter that I've seen in books and movies where you can use booze. You got a bottle of Jack Daniels, you got a bottle of rum, you got vodka, those kinds of things. And you could easily swap a bottle of Jack Daniels or a bottle of this or that for whatever you may need, whether it's food or water or shelter or whatever it is that you may need. It's tradable, and it's hard to break down into units that are tradable. So you've got a quart of whiskey, and if it only takes a pint to buy what you're looking for, it's going to cost you a little bit more than you think. But I wouldn't recommend. Oh, the other thing was ammunition. I see it depicted in a lot of the prepper books and stuff like that, that you can trade 22 longs for whatever you may need. If you need food, you need water, you need medicine, something that you can trade a single bullet, a pack of 10 or whatever. Those are easily broken down into tradable units, and those tradable units can be pretty handy to have because you can make change and you don't have to spend more than you really want to for whatever it is that you've got to have to survive. So, but I would not necessarily recommend trading alcohol or ammunition in an SHTF event unless you absolutely know the individual you're trading with. You don't want some crazy lunatic with a bottle of booze in his hand and a handful of ammunition saying, "Hey, thanks for the trade. Now stick 'em up. I'm taking everything else you got." I wouldn't do that. So I've also put together some tradable food that individual small buckets of rice and beans and flavorings, things like that, that I could swap that extra food for whatever I may need should the S hits the fan. So consider what you're going to do if the situation ever arises that you've got to rely on bartering to deal with resupplying your food, water, medicine, whatever. Take a look at what you've got. Take a look at what you can afford to let go of to trade for stuff that you may absolutely need, and start stocking up on that stuff now. I think that constitutional silver is probably the very best bet. I've also got rounds, silver eagles, all that kind of stuff, but they're 1 ounce rounds, and they're hard to break down. If you only need a half an ounce to trade for something you need, cutting those things in half is not going to be an easy task. So you got to be ready for the eventualities that we may need to be readopting a barter society. This is the Prepared Suburbanite with some tips for the future if the S hits the fan, and I will see you all on the next video.